Jimmy Fallon talked about the president's obsession with TikTok. Jimmy said, "What's he doing? Is he the president of the United States or the preacher from Footloose?" Seth Meyers said, "We're also looking very strongly at Candy Crush. We don't want criminals like the Jilly Queen or Cupcake Carl coming into our country. Joe Biden doesn't have what it takes to stop the bubblegum troll." Fallon, Trump's playing hardball with China. If he bans TikTok, China will only be able to spy on our phones, TVs, cars, and refrigerators, so that's where he draws the line. Seth, the president can't unilaterally ban a social media app, and I don't trust Republicans to regulate social media since most of them don't seem to understand it. Fallon, at first Trump was confused because he thought TikTok was the name of 60 Minutes. Fallon again, but on the bright side, Trump is also using executive action to stop people from writing Instagram captions like, "So this happened." Nikki Glaser talked about audience-free late-night shows, this with Vulture. She guest-hosted Kimmel last week and said it was so weird because you do this monologue, and instead of doing topical jokes or whatever like a late-night host, it was like, let me just try to do this as a stand-up kind of thing. It's so weird because there's no audience. There's just you with a cameraman in the room who's not even allowed to laugh. You don't even get titters like on the Soup or whatever from the producers. It's just nothing. It's so awkward. But I liked it because it was a challenge to be like, how would I make everyone watching at home not feel bad for me right now? Know that I'm fine without getting laughter and that I'm comfortable and they don't have to worry about me. So in this new era of no audiences, I feel like I'm developing a really special skill that's going to be needed in TV because there's no audiences. And that skill of being okay without laughter, not looking awkward, not making people at home feel awkward because it ain't easy. Watching late night right now is not comfortable. It's like watching a really embarrassing episode of The Office where you're just cringing the whole time. Some of those unwatchable episodes because you feel so awkward for them. That's what late night is right now. I've always wanted to be a late night host, and now I'm like, this is my time, I think, because I'm okay without laughter and trying to figure it out. Because I'm okay without laughter and trying to figure out what TV looks like now in this world without a live studio audience. We might not need them. All right, some things to recommend to you. I sat down and watched the Sam J special on Netflix. It's awesome. We'll talk about that in a second. I also thought it was super buried. Like, I turned on Netflix, and Netflix knows I watch stand-up comedy, and it wasn't there. I had to go down like 10,000 levels in the menu to find the stand-up things. It put some other things in front of me, some more known comedians, but to find the Sam J special, I had to find the stand-up comedy like sub category. So I had to go down like 10 levels, scroll over to comedy, and then like, I don't know. It was really buried. I was quite surprised at that. That said, it is hilarious. Go watch it right now. Sam J special is very, very, very funny. Honestly, the first like 5 seconds, she was dropping a lot of F-bombs, and I was like, is it going to be one of those? I'm not into it. And she very, very quickly won me over in a big way. I like that special a lot. I still think Hannah Gadsby's is the best special of the year, but this one is way up there, probably at number 2 on my list right now. It looks kind of low budget for a Netflix special, and I liked that. You know, there's just been this trend of doing these like big theaters with, like, you know, huge crowds, and this felt more like you were at a club. It's shot tight. You don't really see the audience. You don't get too many audience reactions. The crowd sounds on the small side. So really refreshing special. Sam J, you should check that out. The other thing is go down on John Cleese's Twitter. You might have to go back all the way to Friday. He tweeted a version of Donald Trump's interview with the Australian dude from Vice, whose name I can't remember. And they dubbed over it the audio from the Dead Parrot sketch. So you have the interviewer saying his parrot is dead and Trump declining to admit that the parrot is dead. John Cleese's Twitter, that was on Friday morning. I saw that. It is amazing. Go watch that. All right, the laugh button caught up with Pat McGann. He's all abuzz. And man, if Sebastian Maniscalco really wanted to promote this guy by throwing Sebastian's fame behind Pat McGann, it is working because Pat's getting a ton of press. He was off my radar and now he's all over the place. And I was checking out his comedy on my Live by Live show and he's terrific. The laugh button said, "Did you always know you'd have to do your show in Chicago?" And Pat said, "Yeah, I always wanted to be in Chicago. Being the first one, it just makes sense. It was where all my comedy first was, and I feel I can get some people to come out too, but it wasn't necessarily the Vic Theater that I had in mind. I didn't really have a specific venue in mind. I'm glad we did it there, and I have a little connection there because I lived right in the neighborhood after college for a few years. Yeah, that's a fun neighborhood. I've hung out there and had been in that venue. I opened for Angela Johnson there years ago, so that ended up being the perfect place. With a hometown crowd, you can cheat a little bit on that too if you do some local humor. because then they just eat it up. But I also think it's a very good advantage to being on the road where people have not seen you before, have not heard you before, and you're more like sneaking up on them. It's kind of nice when I'm on the road with Sebastian just to walk into a place that's a packed theater and I don't know anybody there. I'm not worried about family or friends or meeting anybody before the show or after the show. And just knowing they haven't heard any of my stuff, most likely. I love that. Vulture said, one thing I find interesting is that you've been labeled as a clean comic, even by Sebastian. And watching your special, I would have never guessed that. McGann said, I think coming up, I had more of that label because I was doing a lot of corporate acts and I was hosting at Zanies. I was like the house MC there. And initially, I was maybe more intentionally about working clean. And then I realized I just need to have a conversation. I'm going to talk to these people the way I talk in real life. Sometimes I drop an F-bomb and swear. I just try to be as real as I can. I try to talk like I do off stage. All right, Variety did a big giant fluff piece with Kevin Hart. We are supposed to be all excited that it's the 3rd anniversary of the Laugh Out Loud network. And they caught up with Kevin Hart, who said 3 years ago it started off as a vision to give people the comedy talent of today, male and female, an opportunity to pop and be seen. We have progressively busted our butts and worked hard to get closer and closer to that goal. We made some noise and stayed consistent. LOL's content comes from a talent lineup of 300 comedians from over 30 countries. The biggest opportunity, Hart says, remains being able to give people a true identity on our platform, especially people of color. It's comedy in color from people of color. It's a space that's historically been underserved, and we're doing our best to fill it. The platform had some struggles at first. Did he ever think about throwing in the towel? Nope, not at all. It was about, for me, how do I step up to the challenge? My challenge now is to build this thing from ground zero to potentially a hero and one of those that made it. That's my motivation. That's my reason to continue. And are you ready to get duped? Eddie Izzard's got a new movie. It'll be on Amazon Prime on August 28th. Here is the description. Dean Duncan and DJ Beetroot are teenage pals from Glasgow who embark on the character-building camping trip based on a real-life program known as the Duke of Edinburgh Award, where foraging, teamwork, and orienteering are the order of the day. Eager to cut loose and smoke weed in the Scottish Highlands, the trio finds himself paired with straight-laced Ian, a fellow camper determined to play by the rules. After veering off path into remote farmland that's worlds away from their urban comfort zone, the boys find themselves hunted down by a shadowy force hell-bent on extinguishing their futures. It's Get Duked, Amazon Prime, August 28th. I will check that out. That is your comedy news for today. Hit subscribe on Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts. You can follow on Spotify, and I will see you tomorrow.